So hello and welcome to Jessie Bear Book Club. Today we are talking about Rolf Hall, The Mare and the Light, episode 4, Janek. Um, this episode I thought was quite redeeming. I'm not sure what everyone else thought. I'm sorry, I put on some lip balm and I think there was like some fur in it from my cat. And I'm trying to get it off. But yeah, this episode 4, really redeemed this series for me compared to episode 3. Episode 3 I thought was really bad, for lack of a better word, whereas this one kind of redeemed it. So it opens obviously with Henry looking at the portraits he's commissioned of him and Jane is heavily pregnant. Jane has like one line this episode, which I thought wasn't very good. I don't know what everybody else is thinking, but I thought Jane as a character this season has been underused. She's a great actress as well, and we could have done with that a little bit more of her. The timeline, like I said, is just that little bit weird. So we're gonna have from the beginning of episode 1 to the kind of the middle of episode 4 is what, 3 years, and then after that, the last like 2 episodes and a half are going to cover 3 years. So to me it feels a little off kilter, if you know what I mean. As for Cromwell's bastard daughter, whose name I can't pronounce, she's a great costume, but I don't think she's a real person, and to be honest, she doesn't add very much to the plot apart from giving Cromwell an out. So he gets an out. He could go back to Holland with her and live his life in Holland, but he chooses not to. He chooses to remain and keep following his king, which I obviously completely get. Who doesn't? But I don't know. It seems slightly pointless. I thought they would at least have her hang around, but to have her in half an episode, because she was in like 5 minutes of last week's episode, seems a bit pointless. What does everybody else think about Janek, or whatever she's called? Jenny. I'll probably be on the good list. I'm a nice person. So we are just 3 minutes into episode 4 of Wolf Hall. I'm going to fast forward a little, see where we get to. Yeah, so Jane obviously gives birth to a son very early on in this episode. And there's the parading of the baby and the scene where Jane is, she's looking out the window at the christening, and she's all cold and she's been eating weird food, and I don't know. I found that slightly odd because I don't think Cromwell would be allowed into the inner sanctum of a queen in that way. Does anybody else? Hello everybody, if you're watching, you want to give this video a like. We are reviewing Wolf Hall, Mare and the Light, episode 4. Damian Lewis, of course, is so good as Henry VIII. There are not words to describe how good he is. And I love all the pomp and ceremony and the way they filmed in Hampton Court. Like, you really get the sense of it with the christening this episode. So hello, I've been for you. Never watched live shorts. Oh, that's your first time watching a live short. I also thought Princess Mary in here wasn't very well researched. As I've said before, I didn't read the books, but they talk about how she's really sour about no longer being the direct heir to the throne, and that is not historically accurate. She was very, very happy. I think she actually stood godmother. One of the godmothers, I want to say. I'm not in a basement. I'm in a living room. Hello, Sophia. So I thought that wasn't the best most accurate portrayal in this episode. You know what I did love? I loved Jane's night robe. Hello, Sophia and Luca. Hello, hello, hello. Lots of hellos. I loved her night robe. I loved the white with the red embroidery. Her little nightcap is so cute. And I thought the whole outfit was lovely. I thought it went really well with her pale hair. I kind of wish we'd got more of Jane this episode. You only really get this scene of her watching the christening and then her dying. And she's such an underused character. So we're fast forwarding again. We get a little bit of a glimpse of Gregory meeting his half-sister. And Gregory seems convinced that his father is going to become king, which is just odd. I'm not really getting that. I don't know if anyone else is. I thought the walk with Cromwell, I mean, it's really a device to give Cromwell an out. It's a story device. It's, you know, a narrative choice to give Cromwell this out. Like, you could have walked away at any time, but he couldn't. I mean, if he'd left England, Henry would have come looking for him, obviously. You know, he couldn't just walk away, and he had a son and heir to protect. So I don't believe the whole he could have just gone to Holland thing. I don't know what everybody else is feeling about this. I also thought him saying that he was homesick for Holland was odd, because we never hear about him being in Holland, really. He was in Italy for a long time. I remember that in the books. Shane, you found episode 4 boring. I preferred this to episode 3, definitely, though it did probably have a slower pace. Where are we? We are at Jane dying, so we're 13 minutes in. But the bit after Jane dies, when Cromwell walks out and he is all, I would not have suffered her to catch cold, I would not have suffered her to do this, I wouldn't have suffered her to do that. And he was like, if she married me. And I was like, stupid Cromwell saying stupid things, don't do that. You know, and I just thought it was interesting. I mean, you kind of know, if you've read the books, that he was interested in marrying Jane himself, but, you know, he married the king. So because I haven't read The Mirror and the Light, I'm kind of superimposing on this what I think happened. Shane, the next storyline could have been replaced with something that actually happened. So much history. Yeah, it could have. I understand why they did it, because if you've read the books, in the first 2 books, he constantly thinks about his 2 dead daughters, Anne and Grace. And then I think we're obviously getting a play off that with Wolsey's daughter and with his illegitimate child turning up. So that's obviously a play. Like, I can see how that's worked. And then you've got the Lady Mary thrown in there, and Jane, and them all being like relatively young compared to him. So I get how that's all coming together, you know? I'm not too sure. I think Cromwell keeps saying stupid stuff in front of the wrong people. I definitely am getting that vibe. The council scene where they're all berating Cromwell, saying that he has to get Henry to marry again, that was definitely something. I do love Thomas Howard, and the way Cromwell was like, let him grieve. Yes, I do like Claire Foy turning up. That is really, really good. Sorry, I was reading the questions there. But I think Cromwell is in mourning for his plans, because without Jane, there's the opportunity for a court faction to form against him again around a different queen, because Jane was his queen, whereas, you know, like, Anne was her own person. Catherine obviously had the Spanish, and he's worried now about somebody else coming in and there being a court faction about the new queen. And of course, Spain and France are allying together against England because England have broken away from the church. If anybody's watching, could you give this video a like? That would be much appreciated. So the kind of the haggling between the two of them is pretty good. I liked how Henry didn't want to see Thomas Howard because Thomas Howard is just berating him to get married again, as only Thomas Howard could. I don't know how I feel about the new actor playing Thomas Howard. He was a lot more blustery, like the previous actor played it with like kind of bluster and like, oh, you know, I'm a lord. Whereas this guy seems a bit more sneaky, a bit more underhanded. And I don't know, I think maybe it works because Thomas Howard was getting older. So you've got like young Howard, old Howard. That's the way I'm doing it in my head. Does anybody else see that, or is it just me? Okay, we're gonna fast forward again. Where have we got to? Henry in mourning, wearing white, I noticed, but a French royal mourning there, because I think the English royal mourning robes were navy, but the French royal mourning robes are white. Playing chess. I hoped we'd see more Will Summers this episode because Will Summers kept Henry company during his mourning, but we do not. We do not. Yeah, I hope they don't butcher Anna von Cleves either. The pictures I've seen though of Anna look really beautiful. I think they got the casting really well done for that. But I hope she's really tall because I think that's one of the things that, you know, she's quite a tall woman. So we'll wait and see how that all plays out. Fast forwarding again. I like the bit where he, like, you know, he's obviously seeing his future and his retirement, and, you know, he wants to live in the monastery that he's taking over where the bees make honey. That was nice, flavored with sage. Yeah, I thought the contrast between Henry and Cromwell was really good in the chess scene as well. I also thought that Cromwell is tiring of this kind of political wrangling and the back and forth that's going on. I don't know if anyone else seen that, and he's seeing his happy future slip away. I think he understands that, like Wolsey, if you're going to serve a king, you will work all the days of your life and there will be no easy retirement for you. I think this is, for me anyway, what this episode symbolized. He knows there's no getting away from his fate at this point. He has bought in hook, line and sinker to, you know, serving this prince, and if he doesn't manage to do the things this prince wants him to do, heads will roll, and they do. Let's see. We're now Lady Mary. The Lady Mary doing all her gambling and stuff. Because we're reviewing a TV show. That's why. That's why I'm talking about Queen who's 500 years old. That is the purpose of this live. We are reviewing Wolf Hall. Wolf Hall, Mirror in the Light, which episode 4, which is on BBC iPlayer. That's the title of this video. So I liked it when the Lady Mary was all like, you told me to act like a princess, and I'm acting like a princess, so don't complain when I'm giving people gifts. You know? Which I thought was quite good. I thought she put Cromwell in his place a bit there. I thought she was quite regal, and I thought she was a better version of Mary than we've seen previously in this show. Ooh, hit the table when I put my glass down. One thing I've noticed is, for example, Jane only had 2 outfits. She had a red outfit and a purple outfit, and the Lady Mary only seems to have had the black outfit from when she wasn't in favour, and now this crimson outfit. I would prefer a little bit more costume changes. You know, I don't mind there being the same outfit, but I am a complete history costume nerd, and I want to see that. Now, we need to talk about Gardner coming back, don't we? But first, yeah, I think, you know, you've got to remember Mary was young at this point in her life and obviously did enjoy life and having fun with her friends. I mean, why wouldn't you? She was like, what, like 22, 23 at this point? Completely normal. I'm really glad they brought Gardner back, and he's so nasty. He's such a nasty, nasty man, and it just works brilliantly. And he's so against Cromwell, you know, 100% against Cromwell. He's like, no Cromwell, no Lutherans, nothing. And as we know, he is Cromwell's biggest rival. So I'm just glad he was back. And I think as well, having Charles Brandon back was good, but we don't see enough of him. And when it comes to Gardner, you know, of course the Howards are in Gardner because they're the old faction, they're the Catholics. But I think Gardner, he represents the two paths, like away from Wolsey. Like Cromwell went this way and Gardner went this way because they both used to work for him. And I kind of feel, for example, that they never link back up. You know, like those paths have diverged completely, and you see it here. You know, the different views, like, do we want to stick to the old way or want to go forward? And I think Henry is very torn between these two because he wants power in Europe and prestige in Europe, but he doesn't have that because he's broken with Rome, which Gardner represents, but he can't agree to go back because he wants to be head of the church. So he has to stick with Cromwell, but Cromwell is very dour, very Protestant, black clothing, all very boring, no singing and dancing probably if he got his way. Which is interesting enough, and you see that later when there's the scene with the traders and stuff. And the guy who's written the gospel in English. We also, where's Margaret Pole? So we get a bit of Geoffrey Pole this episode, and the Rising in the North and all of that. But where is Margaret Pole? We get like 5 minutes of Geoffrey, and we all know, like, if you know anything about history, you know Geoffrey Pole betrayed his entire family and was the reason they were all killed, pretty much. Was because he was scared of losing his own life. He let his brother, his mother go to the block, and his two nephews disappeared in the tower, just like some other Plantagenet princes. So I can't help but wonder, you know, like, where's Margaret Pole in all of this? I was hoping we'd get an interview with her. She features quite largely in Wolf Hall and Bringing Up the Bodies, the Poles do overall. So I was surprised not to see her this episode. But then again, it is all from Cromwell's point of view, so that's, you get what you get, right? I fast forwarded again. We are now 34 minutes in. We got some Chapuis being Chapuising. Oh, so yes. What have we got? A good question. I know what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. The actress playing Margaret Pole is quite prickly, but I think probably the Poles in general were quite a prickly family because of their pride. So I kind of see it. I think maybe in earlier years she would have been softer, but then after the whole debacle with Catherine of Aragon and getting removed as Mary's governess, I could see her becoming prickly. Does that make sense? So at this point in her life, I can see it. If that was that actress playing her 10 years prior, getting honours and stuff, I wouldn't see it. We get to see Henry's leg this episode as well. So Henry has this sort of fainting fit because the wound in his leg has closed over, it's healed over it, so all the bile and all the pus is like not coming out, and he's got an ulcer, and we get to see it, and it's gross. It's so gross. I kind of like seeing it because I'm like gory like that. Like I enjoy Dr. Pimple Popper, for example, but it is so gross. And I feel for Henry because, like, if this was nowadays, he literally could have just gone to a doctor and taken some antibiotics probably, and it would have gone away. But Here, no. And I like the bit where he's like, "You must rest," and he was like, "If I will not rule, I have to rule. Like I'm the king. I've got to do my job." And I think that's the difference, right? Young Henry would have let Cardinal Wolsey take over, but Henry now in his like early 40s understands that he cannot just take to his bed. Okay, another question. We like if they showed nicer sides of Henry. Yeah, I think Henry this episode is definitely, well, this season in general is more pompous. He's quite kind. He can be hard in the first season, but he's also very kind to Anne, and then later on he's kind to Jane. And you see this. In this, it seemed, I don't want to say he's had a personality flip because I don't feel like Henry ever had a personality flip, but I feel that maybe Cromwell's not seeing as much of him, so he's not seeing the kindness. And we don't really see any nice interactions between Henry and Jane this season at all. You know, even like when she's dying, he's just sitting in a chair watching her die. Would you like if they showed now? Oh, I read that already. I'm gonna fast forward again. See where we are. Damian Lewis is still the best Henry I think I've ever seen. Really, really good Henry. Okay, now we have the court scene where Gardner is, what is that guy's name? He wrote the gospel in English. He was some preacher, John something. Anyway, he cannot dispute that he's not Lutheran. He refuses to renounce the fact he's not a Lutheran, so he gets condemned to burn alive, and Cromwell, wanting to save his own skin and not admit himself as a Lutheran, doesn't side with anyone. Can you guys hear that? Can you? It's the wind. So there's storm whatever going on at the minute, and it is howling. There's like 50-mile-an-hour winds outside, and the wind is like howling. It's making the strangest noises. This morning, the wind was so bad, like the house was shaking, and we were out driving around earlier, and it was so bad that like the car was shaking. Like we decided not to take the motorway. We were on the motorway for a little bit, and then we were like, okay, we're gonna go the long way because like it will stop the car shaking because we're on like roads with houses and stuff beside us, but the motorway, like the car, because our car is really small, was like all over the place. The court scene I thought was really nice. It was well done, and I felt for Cornwall. Yes, Dom Dara. Oh, your electric was gone. The electric went in Belfast City Centre today, and there were trees down like all over. We were coming back and there was trees down, like this is probably about 4:30. There were like trees down still and people cutting them up, and we were meant to go to the aquarium today, but we decided not to because the road goes like beside the sea for ages and we didn't want to get like hit by a wave. So yes, Cromwell and religion. I did feel for him, you know, after the court scene when he is like crying. I did really feel for him, and I felt like he felt this betrayal more than any other. Like he felt like he betrayed this man because they hold the same principles, whereas I feel with Wolsey it was more Wolsey kind of couldn't get out of it. So I thought this was interesting. It shows you a slightly softer side of Cromwell, but then again, is there a softer side to Cromwell? Because he did make up all those lies about Anne Boleyn and all those other men. And now, yeah, so after he condemns the man pretty much by not speaking up for him, he has a nightmare about Anne and Claire Foy and Wolsey's daughter, and it's a whole big mess. And he keeps having like this recurring nightmare, obviously, because he feels guilty about what he did. And now my TV has frozen. So while I sort out the TV being frozen, does anybody have any questions? And would you give the video a like? I hate it. That's one thing when you're using the iPlayer, is sometimes if you're fast forwarding it just freezes for no reason, or if you pause it for like a little bit too long and you go and do something, you come back, it like won't come back on. It's just annoying. But you know, it is what it is. We went to the refill center today and I got a tiramisu covered almonds and they're so good. I think it's just like coffee flavored white chocolate, but it's really, really, really good. I'm gonna have to like close iPlayer completely. Cromwell's portrayal as a nicer person compared to most on screen. Yes, I know he seems nicer in this, but you know what I keep referring it back to in my head? Do you guys remember Cromwell in The Tudors? I actually really liked Cromwell in The Tudors, and yes, he did some horrible things in that as well, but I always felt like he was a nice person and he loved his son. So I don't know, I feel like, you know, you've got to remember Cromwell abandoned Wolsey, condemned those monks and the nun to be killed who were preaching against him. He also was involved in Bishop Fisher's execution, Thomas More's execution. You know, there's like he did a lot of pretty nasty stuff. Okay, I've got to go and like close the app completely and then get it back up. Or I could just talk about it. Should we just talk about it while I try to do this? So there is this scene at the end of this episode where where Cromwell is accused by Gardner of poisoning a man on Wolsey's behalf. And that scene was really, really good. I went back, I rewatched it twice because I watched it on catch up and I rewound it so I could watch it again because he gets so annoyed, and you know he's sick, like he's meant to be sick, and you know he's got a fever, whatever. But watching that scene and watching kind of the sweat drip down him as the pressure mounts, and they call back to when the cook was boiled alive for trying to murder Bishop Fisher. Yeah. So it was like kind of a callback, and it kind of gave me chills. Like I know this is made up. You know, I know this doesn't really have any historical context that I know of. I've never heard anything else about this. But that one scene, oh, like that really gave me like tingly chills. I was like, And then when he gets so mad and, you know, Gardner won't shut up, and then Howard, you know, the Duke of Norfolk won't shut up, and he's like, he just gets up and walks around the table and just picks him up. And like, he's like, rah! And I really liked that. I liked that a lot. I thought it worked really well. My TV has frozen again, so I'm giving up. It must be the weather. Let's turn it off. I had it working there, but then I tried to fast forward it again and it just stopped working. But no, I thought that was really good. So far it's been like, the first episode was a winner. Second episode I thought was slow. Third episode I thought made Cromwell look like a bit of a man whore. And the fourth episode I really liked. So I'd give it like a 10, a 10, and maybe 2 8s. So we're coming out at the moment at a 9. The whole series is a strong 9 for me at the moment, or at least an 8.5. I don't know how everyone else is feeling about it. I know it's got good reviews online, but I don't think it's as good as season 1 because they don't have as much story to work with. They don't, and I think the way they're kind of gonna stretch it out and then bring it back is, I don't know how it's gonna feel, because it's obviously just a 6-episode run. So if they stretch it out, like these last 2 episodes, we have to have the marriage to Anne of Cleves and then Cromwell's fall, and it's a lot to fit in 2 hours unless they're gonna do like some sort of extra special. Yeah, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I want to see Henry's reaction to Anne next episode, which that'll be interesting, should we say. But okay, I've been on for nearly 30 minutes, so I'm gonna get back to my real life. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream, and I will see you all next week.